So just to finish my story. So this is what happens. So we get inhabited by those diamonds, and all of us are walking around like that. And we, this is why we behave the way we behave in all kinds of bad ways, because we have forgotten our true, the light, the noetic light in our heart, basically. We've forgotten it, and we get overwhelmed by the emotional passions that have to do with the cosmic forces, the cosmic energies. So that's the analysis of why things are going so badly in the world. This is why we behave so badly, because we are under the influence of diamonds, and we cannot separate them from our true essence. So, and then in Corpus Hermeticum 13, you have this treatise about the rebirth. And so it's a wonderful text. So you read there how the pupil Tat meets Hermes Trismegistus. He has been doing all kinds of spiritual exercises and whatever. And he wants to have gnosis now. He wants to have salvational insight. And then Hermes is a bit hesitant, and he gives some evasive, strange answers, which Tat doesn't understand. But the conversation develops, and at one point, Tat realizes that he enters into a strange, unusual state of consciousness, an altered state of consciousness called mania in Greek, divine madness. Doesn't mean he's insane, it doesn't mean he's mad, but it means that he's in a strange, unusual state of consciousness, mania. And that means that he is on his way to being reborn. So then you get through the text, and at one point, Hermes basically tells Tat, okay, right, you're on the point of being reborn. So this means that you are still not able to see the true light of divinity at this moment. And the reason is that this is because you have those tormentors inside you. He used the word tormentors or torments. And this is just a reference to these astral entities or these daimonic entities in his body. Well, Tat is surprised. He said, do I have tormentors in myself? He said, yeah. Hermes says, yes, you do. But we go to drive them out. And I imagine, this is not described, but this is my interpretation, and I think there are good reasons to assume this, is that what we get then is a description of an exorcism ritual in which the tormentors are going to be driven out of Tat's body. So what happens is that Hermes invokes 10 powers of light. There are 10 powers because there are 10 levels in the Hermetic universe. You have the 7 levels of the cosmos, the 7 planetary spheres. Then you have the 8th level of life, the souls, living souls. Then you have the 9th level of light, which is the noetic light of divinity. And you have the 10th level, which is also the first level, which is the source, the pege in Greek, the ultimate source, the divine source from which everything is continuously being born. So you have again this metaphor of birth, this image of birth. The universe is born, we are born, everything is born from the pege, from God. Okay, so you have 10 levels. So Hermes then invokes 10 powers of light into the body of Tat. And these powers of light enter his body, and they drive out the dark daimonic powers of the astral energies out of his body. And there are 12 of them. Well, 12 because the 12 side of the zodiac, so it makes sense. 10 powers drive out 12 powers. 12 dark powers leave his body with a flapping of wings, we read literally, so really like entities leave his body. And that is the moment of rebirth, because at that moment, the 10 powers of light weave themselves into a spiritual body of light in the physical body of Tat. So he still has his physical body, the product of the first birth, but now it is inhabited by a second body, a body of light, which is born. And this is a literal physical, spiritual birth of light in the body and this is divine light. So this is the rebirth. And the moment that this happens, Tat is no longer seeing the world by his normal physical senses, because normally we see the world in time and space. So I am focused on this space where I'm sitting at this moment in time. But the moment that Tat is reborn, he's no longer bound to space and time. And so you get this wonderful description in which he says, I'm everywhere. I am in the past, I'm in the future, I'm in the present, I am here in this place, I'm in India on the other side of the world, I'm in the ocean, I'm in the air, I'm everywhere. And so the rebirth does not just mean that that this light body is taking shape into your physical body. It also means that your consciousness is radically changed and becomes able to see the world in the same way that God himself sees the world, namely everything at the same time and all times at the same time. And so this is the description, Corpus Hermeticum 13. So that's the rebirth. That's not a Christian interpretation of Lazzarelli. It's a different model, but still about rebirth.
Exactly. The rebirth idea is so central. I think like Tat's experience after recognizing the rebirth, that he's everywhere, like this idea, I think the very first encounter when Hermes was in the state of half asleep and he encountered Poimander at the very first moment.
Yeah.
So his introduction was, I am Poimander and I am with you everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And this decade is Henad, is the same
Mm,
thing. The moment you recognize this decade is the 10th layer, and the
yeah.
Henad is the beginning, the root, number one. The
Yes,
10
yes.
and the 1 is the same thing. That triggers the rebirth experience. The moment you recognize, it's not the different, it's the same thing. And that's the beginning of the Hermetic corpus literature. And that's the also the literature that concludes Lazzarelli's Crater Hermitage. At the very end, the participant, they're eager to know, okay, tell us how the rebirth works. And I would also say the important part is, as a scientist myself, so whenever you try to understand a complex object or complex piece, I would say the most guaranteed way to understand something, if you can make it by yourself.
Mm,
Suppose I have this glass in
mm,
front of me.
mm,
I have to understand. So I can measure it, I can do all kinds of things, but the guaranteed way that I'll understand this glass completely, if I
mm,
make this glass by myself.
mm,
For example, I found the raw glass, I melted it, I impressed it, then I made the handle. The bottom
mm.
line is the only guaranteed way to understand something completely is to rebuild it, make it by yourself.
I
So,
think, well, I really want to thank you for that observation, because I think that's, honestly, I think that's a brilliant observation. I think it's absolutely right. It is
and,
right.
and, and Nazar Ali was going step by step by step to rebuild how the human body works by this
Mm,
that passion, this daimonic entity,
mm,
mixing all, how to get rid of those passion by 10th power. And by
mm.
the time you reach 10th power, you recognize you came back at the beginning. So
Yeah,
that's the making of the human body. And actually, that's the magic.
yeah,
And that's
yeah,
why
yeah,
people traditionally blame this hermetist as a magician, because they change people.
yeah,
They
yeah.
change people.
They change people.
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, 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 yeah. I think you're absolutely bullseye. Absolutely true. This is how it is. And yeah, yeah, yeah. And like you say, the only if you can make something do you really know it. That's a fantastic observation. That's a fantastic observation. I think that's something that you can apply also to people like Zosimos, the alchemist, who was trying to understand matter by working in it in a laboratory, by making. things, then you get to know them. And yes, that's wonderful. That's really, yeah.
Yeah, I personally want to thank you for this reach, because most of the Hermetic literature is lost or not encouraged, or nobody reads them because those are in ancient language. But you translated in a very easily readable language, in English language, this Greater Hermitage and Lazavera and Lazarali and other people's translation. And I think that helped me to read and appreciate the work. And that's
Well,
wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
well, thank you very much. And really, it's wonderful to have such an attentive reader of my work, and that's really, I appreciate it.
You never know who will read your book. That's why
Exactly.
there is a saying, there was an argument. Let's conclude our discussion today. I think I mentioned in my email that the thought and Amun was discussing that you cannot teach people wisdom by writing because the meaning is lost.
Mm,
Amun was saying that meaning is lost. You cannot, but you argue, no, no, no. By writing, you can also teach them because that's the alchemy. You
mm,
wrote a book, I understood it.
mm,
So that's the
mm.
alchemy. And it's possible. Yes.
Well, this is very nice to hear. Very nice to hear, because that's exactly what I said on the very final pages of this book I wrote about the Hermetica. That yes, how is it possible the experience cannot be transmitted through language, because you have to experience it yourself. But by reading, texts are able to, texts have agency and they can do something with you, and you are able to, uh, yeah, to reconstruct the meaning yourself based upon those texts.
Reassemble the fragmented part, and
Yes,
it
yes,
reassembles into an entity, an
yes,
idea. And if when you see what you mean by reading the book, you actually see the writer's point of view and experience yourself. So
yeah,
it's a teleportation, kind of teleportation, that you
yeah,
do something here, but it reassembles here. So it's
yeah,
kind of magic. It's again kind of
yeah,
magic. So even Amun, God Amun suggesting to thought that you cannot teach wisdom by writing a book because the meaning is lost and people will translate it differently. But thought was persistent. No, 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 you can still do it. And I respect you that you insisted that no, I think by writing a book and communicating to a third person, that person will like sow the seed and make his own understanding what I am understanding in an identical way. And
yeah, and
if somebody misunderstood, that's their problem. But if
yes,
somebody understands correctly what I mean, actually, that's a valid way of doing this hermetic magic also.
yeah, and here we come to a very nice, I think, a natural ending to our conversation, because this this act of understanding, as you say, yeah, that is what we call hermeneutics, right? Hermeneutics, and the word hermeneutics uh, basically means the art of understanding,
Yes,
understanding texts, but understanding everything. The art of understanding, we call it hermeneutics. And the very word hermeneutics, of course, is derived from Hermes. So that is exactly the hermetic art of understanding things.
yes,
So in a way, this brings everything together again in the act of understanding, the human act of understanding, which means that you bridge a gap that cannot be bridged. And that is what Hermes does, bridging
exactly.
gaps that cannot be bridged.
Thank you so much, and thank you for helping other people to bridge their gaps by your work. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for this conversation. I enjoyed it very much and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye bye.